Thank you for checking out our channel. Just so you know, if you are looking for affordable and quality housing, you can always check out our website www.az-housing.com. It will be in description. How is corporate housing taxed? Is it tax deductible? If you need short-term lodging, corporate housing can save you money up front over the cost of a hotel. But what about after the stay when you're filing your taxes? In this article, we'll discuss the tax implications of corporate housing. If you need short-term lodging, corporate housing can save you money up front over the cost of a hotel. But what about after the stay when you're filing your taxes? In this article, we'll discuss the tax implications of corporate housing. What is corporate housing? Who uses it? Safe harbor versus facts and circumstances. You may have heard of the safe harbor test. That's an IRS rule that applies to business-related local lodging expenses. But that test only considers lodging not away from home, such as for business meetings, conferences and training, and for less than 5 days. To evaluate longer stays, one must use the facts and circumstances test. The exceptions we'll discuss in the following section all come from that IRS test. Is corporate housing taxable or tax deductible? As a general rule, the IRS considers employer-provided housing to be a fringe benefit, and fringe benefits count as taxable income for an employee. An exception is granted if the lodging is for the convenience of the employer, is on the business's premises, and is provided as a condition of employment. This most often applies to workers in civil service, government, education, or construction or maintenance. An example would be a building superintendent who occupies an apartment within the complex that he or she manages. So this exception, allowing lodging to be excluded from wages, generally would not apply to a business traveler. The exception that is more relevant for business travel allows a business to deduct the cost of a corporate apartment if the housing is for a work-related, temporary relocation. A significant portion of corporate housing falls in this category. As long as the assignment lasts for 1 year or less, and takes place away from the employee's tax home, the metro area where he or she works, the housing allowance may be excluded from the employee's taxable income assessment. It then can be considered a business expense for the employer. How are corporate housing allowances taxed? The above section discusses corporate apartments, but what about housing allowances? Well, the same rules apply in this situation. The housing allowance is considered a business expense for the employer, and a taxable fringe benefit for the employee, unless the employee is living on the business's premises, housed for the employer's convenience, or given quarters as a bona fide condition of employment. How do you deduct corporate housing on your taxes? If you're an employer who pays for corporate housing that is not subject to any of the above exceptions, you can deduct the actual cost of providing the housing. Corporate housing is beneficial for employees and employers. For employees, corporate housing may be considered taxable compensation, but it's still a great perk. You just may have to pay taxes for the privilege. For employers, the cost of providing corporate housing can result in a substantial tax write-off. And when it comes to saving money on corporate taxes, every credit and deduction helps. If you are an employer who needs to send employees to another city for an assignment, working with a corporate lodging company for temporary housing can create a significant tax benefit for you. In fact, by working directly with the company, your business is better able to track the accounting without having to deal with employee reimbursements, etc. Let's take a quick look at how the tax laws affect employers who cover their employees' living expenses for extended stays. What qualifies as tax deductible? The government allows businesses to write off temporary employee housing as non-taxable business expenses. To qualify for this write-off, the situation basically must meet 3 criteria. The housing must be outside of the employee's tax home, in other words, outside the city where he/she lives. The housing must be for business-related purposes. In other words, you can't send an employee to corporate housing on vacation and count it as a business expense. Also, It must be necessary to have the employee in close proximity to the business location for the work to be done. The intended time frame for the temporary stay must be 1 year or less. What business expenses may be deducted? Any expenses you pay on behalf of the employee as necessary to doing business may be considered a valid deduction, the same as if you were a sole proprietor deducting those expenses for your own business travel. These may include the full cost of living expenses, including lodging and cost of utilities. In the case of a corporate lodging agency, the utilities are frequently included with the cost of the unit. Transportation expenses, the cost of getting the employee to and from the worksite. 1/2 the cost of meals while the employee is away from home. An important note: how and where you report these expenses on your company tax returns depends on how you cover the employee's costs. If you pay for the cost of temporary housing directly on behalf of your employees, you deduct it as a business expense. If the employee pays out of pocket and you reimburse him, her, you must include that amount as income on the employee's W-2 form, which means she will also pay taxes on it. Please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.